FEMA, funneling emergency money to aliens. I don't know about you, but here's what I think. I think it's absolutely essential that when Donald Trump takes the Oval Office, which he certainly will in the upcoming election just a few weeks away now, every one of these people that have stolen money from you, the American taxpayer, and then spent it in unapproved ways needs to do jail time. There's no getting around it. Laws have been broken, stolen money has been handed out, and now when the American citizens need it the most, it's not available for them. I can't think of any way to excuse this or to make this acceptable. It's going to take military tribunals because the Justice Department has become the Injustice Department. The Phoebes, the Kerrs at the CIA, all of them, they are the enemy of America. They're no longer serving American interests. They're serving their own interests, or worse, they're serving the interest of our foreign enemies. They've pre-placed an army here in the United States of illegal aliens. They did that with the intent of making sure that when the time comes, it's coming quickly, you will be unable to save yourselves or your land from these foreign invaders.
Tommy. I'm sorry I left. I hope this message will explain why. I need your help.
Teach the children quiet
I went back to that song because it's an old song, I think 1985 by Mike and the Mechanics, but the words of it kind of touched me. Maybe you could tell that. Good information in there. Look, guys, we're on the verge of something we have never seen before. This election, absolutely critical, by the way. We have to see Donald Trump elected this time, or there'll be nothing left of what we used to know as the Republic of the United States. But it's absolutely critical that we get out there and vote. We get our friends out there and vote. Now, the event that they had out in Pittsburgh yesterday, where Donald Trump went back to Butler, not Pittsburgh, but Butler, Pennsylvania, had this huge rally, over 60,000 people there, people as far as the eye can see. Now, Cammie, she has rallies. She has them in high school gymnasiums, and they block off the areas where they might not be able to fill all the seats. But Donald Trump has a rally back in Butler, Pennsylvania, 60,000 people as far as the eye can see. And they're enthusiastic, and they're going to vote. You can take one look at the crowd sizes of these respective events and know for a fact that Donald Trump is going to win this election, because there's never been a more popular presidential candidate in the history of the United States. And for that matter, as I documented, there's never been a more effective president in the history of the United States. There's never been a president that has passed more conservative legislation. There's never been a president who has done more for Christianity. There's never been a president that has done more for Judaism. And he cut taxes and maintained low inflation during the time, which meant that not only were you taking home more money, but your money was buying more than it did before. This is unprecedented. Once again, it's never happened, but it's because Donald Trump understands how economies work. That's why we need Donald Trump. And why does he understand that? Because he is the guy who has always had to sign the paychecks on the front, as opposed to those millions and millions of brand new Americans that only sign checks on the back as they take your money that you earned off of your back. That's why I'm saying prison sentences for these guys, absolutely essential. And if we overlook this time, if we let it go this time, there's not going to be another chance. Now this. Schwab of the World Economic Forum is the guy that said, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Well, food prices, especially meat and poultry, have skyrocketed over the last 4 years, and it's going to get worse next year because we have new EPA rules for meat processors. What the Environmental Protection Agency has to do with meat processing, I don't know. But the Department of Agriculture, their food price outlook for September, reported that beef and veal prices have increased for 6 straight months, and they predicted they're going to rise another 5.5% by the end of the year. Poultry prices also rose. Smaller percentage, but still, they're going up. The reports trace the rise to things like pandemic-related supply chain disruptions and, of course, the worst inflation since the 1960s. Next year, we'll see still higher meat and poultry prices at the grocery store because an Environmental Protection Agency proposal is expected to put many of the meat processors out of business. It's going to put a lot more guys on the street, and it's going to cause supply chain disruptions. And, of course, they've probably spent the money that we've also paid into the retirement funds and unemployment funds, because that's just the way this government does things. So there'll be no unemployment insurance to cover these guys out on the street. They announced this rule change governing effluent wastewater, limits for meat and poultry processors in January of this year, followed by public comment in the spring. But the rule is going to go into effect in August 2025. Proposal has met with a lot of oppositions from dozens of state and industry stakeholders and policy experts who fear it will harm the industry irreparably. In 2019, the group challenged the Trump administration under the Clean Water Act for not updating aging water pollution control standards for slaughterhouses and meat processing plants. EPA. EPA. Did anybody see the Simpsons movie? Yeah, I know it's a waste of money, but EPA? Once again, the Simpsons proved to be prophetic. The proposed rule contains 3 possible options for reducing wastewater discharges from slaughterhouses and poultry processors via water filtration technology. The EPA estimates that the new rules will reduce pollutants discharged from wastewater by processing facilities by about 100 million pounds a year. Really? I don't know who does their math. The proposed rule will also establish tighter limitations for nitrogen released into the environment by the large processors, and for the first time, it will limit phosphorus. The rules will apply to processors directly discharging wastewater into bodies of water, and for the first time, it will apply to those indirectly discharging wastewater via water treatment plants. In another first, the new rules will establish pre-treatment standards for oil, grease, suspended solids, and biochemical oxygen demand. EPA solicited comments on the preferred option and on the other two proposals. This is the way the EPA solicitation went. We're going to kill you. Would you prefer to die in the electric chair or by hanging? Of the 850, about 850 of the some 5,000 facilities that will be impacted by the preferred rule changes. These include large facilities processing more than 50 million pounds of meat per year and more than 100 million pounds of poultry. Prices for beef, chicken, turkey, and pork are expected to skyrocket, while the availability of such meats will reduce. Folks, this is not an accident. They are intending to starve you. They are intending to get rid of you. Don't forget, these globalists, led by the World Economic Forum, want to reduce the world population to 500 million people, the entire world population to 500 million people. Just to put that in perspective, with the most recent surge of illegal aliens into the United States, there are approximately 400 million people already in the United States. They want the world population reduced to 500 million people. What's that going to look like? I don't think you're going to like it.